So today on the program, we have Sheryl Jimerson. Sheryl is a member of TXCPA Houston. And thank you for joining today, Sheryl. I'm really looking forward to this interview.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we spoke before, a few weeks before this interview, and talked about a few topics, like what are some of your hobbies outside of your profession? I know we talked about a book club that you're a part of. So
yes.
Can you tell me how that book's coming along and what it is?
It's Atomic Habits.
Habit.
Yeah. So we just started yesterday with the U of H alumni. So it's so far so good. We kind of started off with like a pre-summary. What do you think about habits? How do they shape your life? So far so good. I've heard good things about the book. I actually bought it a long time ago, but I'm actually ready now to read it and kind of get other people's thoughts about it. So yeah, I've been doing that. I've been learning French, which I enjoy a ton. I have a tutor that helps me too. She's in France right now, so it's interesting to kind of talk to her over Skype, and so that's been fun. I also take a class at Lone Star College, so yeah, it's been fun. My family's from Louisiana originally, so they spoke the Creole French, and it's just kind of good to actually understand where some of those little words were coming from, because we're learning that in French. And other than that, I love to read fiction books. It's kind of like my escape. I love to read. My 11-year-old son, he keeps me busy. So any kind of family time, I just really enjoy it. Yeah.
I'll have to check out the Atomic Habits. I have not heard of that one. And the French. So are there plans to go to France then and use your newfound skill and apply it, or what are your thoughts there?
As soon as COVID is over, I do want to go and just to practice. I would love to meet the tutor that I have in Marseille. I've been to Paris before and I loved it. My sister used to live in London, and so we took that train to Paris, and I just really, really, really loved it. So yeah, I do intend to go there as soon as we're somewhat back to normal with COVID and stuff like that. Yeah.
How do you prioritize work and family? How do you find that balance?
It's hard. It's hard to find the balance, but it's, I keep a planner. Actually, I have my planner right here. I keep a planner with me at all times to try to manage my day and what I have going on. For my task, I try to prioritize what needs to happen today. I put a star by those things. Some things just have to wait, and they do wait. And so it's one of those things. And I guess with being kind of like on the public accounting side and having your own practice, you can be more flexible with your schedule too. So sometimes it's, I'm not here in the afternoon, I'm with my son. And sometimes, on the weekends I'm here, and just managing it that way, because I don't know if you can, I think balance is more of a like, how are you going to balance the 24 hours, and it's not like chunks of time really that you can set aside sometimes. So you just have to, make sure you're spending time on what you need to each day. Yeah,
I like that. You do have to sort of prioritize, again, what's important. I only have so many minutes to get it done.
Right.
Multitasking in a way, I guess.
Multitasking and staying off social media. Sometimes I learned to set those little timers on my phone to where, if it's been 25 minutes, okay. And the 25 minutes can go so fast, and you're like, I've been on here 25 minutes, and that way I'm just, okay, I'm off for the day, 25 minutes and that's it. But yeah, that's been helpful for me too, because I can get lost in looking into things and it's just a waste of time. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about your practice. Tell me how did that come about? How did you get started? I guess you can even go back to when you got your CPA license, like tell me about the career progression you went through.
Yeah, so I graduated from U of H, and I majored in finance. Accounting I thought was scary, so I didn't want to go that route. So I went the finance route, but my career, my professional career was actually in accounting. So then everything started to click to me then, because I was actually doing it in practice. And so I decided I was done with school once I finished my bachelor's. And then I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not, I'm a lifelong learner. So it's always, I'm trying to learn new things. And so I'm like, well, while I'm learning this or while I'm getting my MBA, you can go ahead and get those hours required for the CPA exam and, see what happens, right? Because the time is going to pass anyway. It's just, are you going to make the best of it or not, So I got my CPA license in 2007, and I was working in the industry for an oil and gas company here in Houston. And so that was the majority of my career in industry, was working in the tax department of an oil and gas company. And so I went from like the small, simple kind of tax returns to more complex. And then I got to international, which was even more complex, right? Because you have to know accounting for international and US, and you have to know the tax laws for US and the local country tax. And so I really enjoyed my experience there. But I started teaching as well. I was teaching on the weekends, and I was teaching, a class at night on Monday nights. And so I really enjoyed teaching. And so that's one good thing about a CPA license, is that there's so many opportunities, there's so many different ways that you can go with your CPA license. And so I started teaching, and while I was teaching, I was actually doing some accounting CPA type work on the side, for small businesses and individuals. And so from there, my practice just kind of grew. I opened up an office, and, it just really just kind of grew from there. My focus now is more, I would love to work more international for individuals and businesses, because that's my passion. I like the different cultures and things like that, and so it's nice to meet people from different countries and look, I have like 3 or 4 different globes in my office because I just enjoy it. But yeah, so that's the last 20 years in a nutshell. Yeah.
That's a pretty quick overview. And
yeah,
you can use some of that French then that you learned and apply it to their tax code or something of that nature. I don't know.
Yeah,
get some French clients.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, there's a French Chamber of Commerce here in Houston. And it's been good to connect with them because, some of them speak French, a lot of them speak French. And so it's a good way for me to practice what I like to do. And then also, meeting other people. Yeah.
So tell me more about teaching and how you got involved at Lone Star, and how you kind of manage your practice and teaching.
Yeah. So, a friend of mine, she is a professor at Lone Star College, and she, her field is criminal justice. And so she asked me one day, we were out to lunch, and she said, have you ever thought about teaching? I'm like, no, I'm an accountant. I don't teach, And it was like, that's not my thing. And so she was like, well, you ought to try it. And I tried it, and I loved it. I loved working with the students, and it's just something about seeing that light bulb. I know you hear about the proverbial light bulb clicking, but it's just an amazing feeling when the student just gets it, And so, so I started teaching at Lone Star, like I said, on Monday nights, and I also took a class on Saturday nights for San Jacinto. Well, a full-time position came up, and I kind of thought about it, and I prayed about it. I thought about it, prayed about it. And so it's like, I'm going to apply for this position, which was, of course, instructors don't get paid as much as you do out in industry, right? But I just wanted to have that flexibility, that teaching provides. and also, to see the light bulbs. And so I manage it now. It's a lot easier because my classes are online, of course, with COVID. So I have days or times of the day where I'm strictly focused on my students for Lone Star, and then the other stuff comes after that because I can work on my clients' projects on the weekend or whenever. So my son says if I don't have anything to work on, I'm always looking for something to work on. That's what he's telling me. He's wise for 11, but yeah, that's true. So yeah, I don't know how I do it. I just make it work, I guess. And it doesn't feel as bad when you really like what you do. It doesn't feel like a chore as much. So yeah.
A lot. Yeah. I don't know how you do everything you do in 24 hours. You must not sleep, I guess. Maybe that's part of it.
I could use a few more hours sometimes, but yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about TXCPA Houston, and how did you get involved with the society, and what have you been involved in?
So I actually got most involved with the TXCPA Houston organization from teaching. They have a campus representative program where they would look for a professor to, promote the professional designation for a CPA and kind of just guide students into that profession, right? And so tell them what we're about, what we do, and all that. And so I did that. I don't even know how I came across that opportunity to be a campus rep, but I started doing that, and that way I got more involved with the Houston organization, just doing different things. In 2018, I actually won the Outstanding Educator Award, Accounting Educator Award, and that was a great honor for me because, I don't know, I think I just do what I do and not look for that kind of recognition, but it's always good to get that recognition. So yeah, I got more involved with the Houston Society and started going to more events. And it just, to me, it kind of seems like the organization became more welcoming. I felt more comfortable. And it's just kind of grown from there, my involvement. Yeah.
So what advice would you have to anyone who's watching or listening to this and wants to get involved in TXCPA Houston? What advice would you have for them?
I would say go to one of the meetings and connect with somebody. I mean, as accountants, we are a lot of times introverted, right? But you can find that one person that you really connect with and that makes you feel welcome. Connect with that person, and then you'll start connecting with other people. The Houston Society, they have networking events. It's been virtual, but there's virtual happy hours and things like that, just to get to know other people. Find something that you are passionate about. We have the CPAs in schools, helping in schools, and financial literacy, if that's something that you're interested in, working with the IRS, if that's something you're interested in working with the American Society, the AICPA, if you're interested in doing that. There's different ways to get involved. Just go with what you're interested in, and then you'll start making connections with other people that enjoy the same things that you do. And so lots of opportunities to get involved.
So you mentioned CPAs helping schools.
Yeah.
Are there other committees so it sounds like you've done some work with CPAs helping schools. Are there other committees that you've worked on at the society?
The Personal Financial Planning Committee, that's a good one. They work on the conferences that are held each year and bringing in speakers. That's a really great organization, great group of people. Diversity and inclusion, there's a diversity committee. That's awesome. I've actually, for the CPAs helping in schools, I mean, if you like mentoring, that's a good group to get involved with. I've had, as an instructor for Lone Star, I've had CPAs to come in and talk to my students. And so, I've done like a 3 or 4 hour program with people that do different things in accounting. So if you like to go out and talk to people in schools, that's a good one. There are so many. The IRS, relations with the IRS committee that you can get involved with and actually talk to someone that works for the IRS. There's a lot. Yeah. So,
I guess, can you tell me a little bit more about, so for anyone who's thinking about getting into the accounting profession, somebody, who is in college, maybe undecided, and based on your experience at Lone Star, what advice do you give to them if, they're unsure, is accounting right for me? Like, how did you know accounting was right for you, I guess?
I would recommend internships, especially for tax season, if you're interested in maybe figuring out if tax is right for you. There's lots of, smaller firms, even larger firms that you can go and kind of get that experience. Be willing sometimes to go to internship for places where you may not get paid, but you get some experience and you get some good connections. If you want to have a career at that particular company or whatever, be willing to do that. Because it pays out in dividends, right? You don't know if you're going to like it sometimes until you actually try it. And so there's so many different routes that we can go as CPAs, accounting, auditing, tax, teaching. There's so many different, I always tell my students, I want to get their impression when they first come into class. Describe to me what a CPA is. What does an accountant look like? Oh, they work in a cubicle and they're working on spreadsheets all day. Nope. No, there's a lot of different avenues that you can go in your CPA. As a CPA, there's a lot of different avenues to go through. And so I would never think that being a CPA can take me so many different routes. There's things that I've wanted to try. I never thought that I would actually start my own practice, but now and it's so many different things that I've been able to try because of the CPA designation. So, yeah.
And so looking out over the next 5-10 years, where do you see yourself? What do you want to, it sounded like you wanted to do more international tax with your practice. Give me the vision of what does your CPA firm look like in 5 to 10 years?
That's a good question. I want to develop that international client base. I want to be the person that people think of when they say, well, I have some foreign investments, or, I just moved here from Egypt or wherever, and I've heard about Sheryl, and, it's that building that reputation. I'm really big on service, client service. And so just, I guess, building my business that kind of way, with good service and working on that specialty. So, CPA hours and different things like that. So that's how I kind of see it.
So do you see this, do you see your practice taking on more staff, or just kind of maintaining the same headcount you have now? And then where does teaching fit in? Do you want to keep that going too?
I do want to keep teaching. I probably don't see myself teaching as many courses, that may kind of dwindle out, but I still want to teach to have that connection. And the teaching, especially for tax courses, that keeps me up to date on all of the different changes that are going on in tax law. So I do want to continue to do that. I don't see myself having a big firm, because I want it to be a really focused firm. You know what I mean? because I decided actually last week, I'm like, there's so many different things that I can do to really, really grow my business. I can have, a large staff if I did a bunch of different things. But I have the choice to say, no, I want to focus on this one thing, and I want to keep it, a really focused type practice area. And I want to make sure that my clients are taken care of. So my staff might be just someone that helps with making sure that the clients are taken care of, but really that's just going to be my focus. It's just straight focused on the niche area.
Yeah, in financial planning, you hear this term of lifestyle practice. So I assume it applies to CPA firms. So just kind of work as much as you want, but not overdo it, and just have enough to keep you going and pay the bills, and have a little left over to save up and
exactly.
Invest,
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have a choice, then choose to do something that you like to do. Choose to do something that you like to do. Sometimes bigger is not always better. So whatever you enjoy doing, do that. Yeah. And
when it gets so big, then you're just managing people, and you're not, to your point, you're not focusing on what you really like to do. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly the way I think about it.
I like that. Is there anything that we didn't cover? Do you want to talk about diversity and inclusion? Talk more about that, being, a woman in the accounting profession, kind of some of the challenges you've seen, and kind of how the accounting profession could be better about bringing in and being more inclusive to minority groups.
I've really enjoyed the highlights that we have been doing about some of our CPAs that are minorities and that are women that are doing really great things in the profession. The idea of what a CPA is changing, right? Because, some people that you would see now that are CPAs, you wouldn't think that they're CPAs, right? It's changing because our idea of who has that kind of knowledge is changing, if that makes sense. So it's been good to go to the meetings, as opposed to, it's been 10 years before, where I would go to a meeting and it just looks like there's no diversity at all. But now when I go and I can see different faces, men, women, young, old, Black, Latin American, whatever, all the different demographics, it's helpful to promote our profession to be more diverse too, because they're saying, okay, well, I can be that same person, or I can do that, and whereas they probably thought before that they couldn't. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I think it's been a great thing that's kind of happening with CPAs and putting our profession and our professionalism out there. Being a woman, I see it as an advantage. As an African American woman, sometimes it's not, there's some preconceptions about what to expect that, aren't true, so I make sure that the people that I work with know that those preconceptions are not true. I deliver service, and I don't care what you look like, you're going to get good service from me. And I'm going to stick to what I say I'm going to do. And, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. But it's just overcoming that preconceived notion of, when you work with a minority, what kind of service are you going to get? I don't know if that makes sense at all.
No, I hear what you're saying. You walk into a room, you go into a meeting, and not to have that diversity, just see a bunch of older white men, it can be disheartening, I'm sure, and not an inviting type of setup. So for anyone who is in that minority group, I guess any good pointers or lessons or anything that, words that you would want to pass along?
I would say go for it. I would say, whatever you want to do, just go for it. There are some people that are, there's been a lot that's going on lately. And I think that that some people are becoming more open-minded, and that's good. It can be a good thing. Some of the bad things that have been happening can be a good thing now for the profession, because there's like a willingness or an openness or more of an understanding of where an African American person or another minority group is coming from. So.
Yeah, I think there is more of that awareness within our profession and society at large. But it's definitely not happening overnight. It's it's been going on for many, many years. So
it's a big shift. Yeah.
Let's see. We talked about teaching, about your firm. I guess what we didn't really talk about is, how did you pick accounting? Why did you choose accounting? When you went to college, what was your major? You mentioned you got an undergrad in finance, but how did you get into accounting?
Really weird. Okay, so when I was a kid, I always thought I want to be a pediatrician. Why? I have no idea, but to this day, I cannot stand the sight of blood. I cannot stand the sight of scars. I can't, so, but I've always been interested in numbers. I like numbers. I can remember numbers. It's just like, you ask me what's my son's social security number, I can give it to you right off the top of my head. I remember as a kid laying in bed, and I would look at the time, and I would divide, the hours into the minutes. Okay, it's 12:48, 48 divided by 12. And just, I've always had an affinity for numbers. And so when I went to college, I took the accounting courses, didn't really understand it because it was like this huge room, and I didn't feel comfortable asking questions. You have hundreds of people, hundreds of students, and you're too shy to ask a question. So I just didn't get it. But then when I went back to get my MBA, I had already done some accounting work, and so it made more sense to me. And then that's when I knew, okay, well, I get it, that light bulb went off for me. And so I went the whole accounting route, the whole gamut, CPA and all that. And so it was just, I think I got turned off from it because I didn't feel like I was comfortable enough to ask the question, when I was an undergraduate in accounting class. So when I teach my students, I always tell them this story, because with a smaller community college, we have 30 students in the class, not 200, and so you have the opportunity now in this class to ask those questions that I didn't get to ask, and so, it's practicing and watching them and what's a debit, what's a credit, that seems so kind of foreign, or people think of it like, debit and credit for your bank account, okay, no. So I can look at each student and say, this is where you're kind of off track with this. And so, and it's been really good because the students get interested. Now they're interested because they understand it. So yeah, that's kind of how I started accounting. It scared me, and then I went that route. Yeah.
So it sounded like the practical application, having seen it firsthand and worked in accounting, then you're able to apply that when you went back to school to get your MBA.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And so what made you sit for the CPA? Like, what was the driving force to get your CPA license? Since you got your MBA, you had all the prerequisite courses taken care of. like what prompted you then to pursue the license?
I just wanted to do it. I don't know. I'm kind of like a glutton for punishment sometimes. And so I just wanted to do it. And I didn't take like a CPA prep course. I studied kind of on my own, and, I took one session at a time. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to really, really focus on this one session, go for it, take it, pass it. Okay, next, go for it, take it, pass it. And it was just like, for me, it's an accomplishment. My dad always told me, what you know is something that no one else can take from you. And so I feel like I'm always trying to absorb more information, and I tell my son the same thing, your knowledge is something no one can take from you. What you know is never going to be taken from you. And so lifelong learning. Yeah.
It's a really good message. I like that.
Yeah.
I guess we could talk about anything at the CPA Society that you would like to get more involved in. I know time is, you don't have a lot of time, obviously, but are there any committees that you've been eyeing or that, you've heard about? Like you mentioned, there are, at least 30 committees, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, there's, plenty to choose from. Are there any that you want to get more involved in or thought about?
You know what? I would love to see a group that has an international tax focus. I would love to see that. I know with the National Association of, and it's off the record, of course, National Association of Enrolled Agents, they have a group that really talks about, foreign issues. And so I would love to see that. Financial literacy, that would be a good one too. I feel like we don't, we kind of set our children up for failure if we don't tell them about financial literacy. I think that's a big one. Schools don't really talk about that anymore. My financial literacy came from my dad, and so I think it's really important to kind of expand that and get more involved in, working with the community and talking about financial literacy.
I like the International Tax Committee. That would be, that'd be a really interesting one to have.
Yeah, it'd be good to be able to pick each other's brains and
and just add to the number of committees then, and 31 committees, 32.
Yeah, add to it, yeah.
Sheryl, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's been great.
Yeah, you're so easy to talk to. So it was, so that's always helpful when the person is easy to talk to. So I've enjoyed it.